Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, your host, here with my co-host and co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We are in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. And we have a really fun, interesting show for you for this episode. We are heading to northeastern Arizona for a true first-timer's guide to Petrified Forest National Park. What it is, how it became a park, and how to actually experience it without rushing past all the good stuff, because there's a lot of that too. So from the painted desert to the park's best short trails to the human history that's literally carved into stone, we'll walk you through how to do Petrified Forest National Park right, then finish with a little drive on Route 66 to Holbrook, and even a stop at the Meteor Crater. Yes, a meteor crater is in Arizona, for those of you who didn't know. Until a couple years ago, I didn't know that a meteor crater had struck Arizona, and it's huge.
It is huge.
It's ginormous.
Yes,
and
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get to that part. First, we had the pleasure of visiting the Petrified Forest National Park not too long ago, and it's one of those places that, because of our proximity, we live in, record the show out of Las Vegas. It's just outside a smaller town called Holbrook, Arizona, which itself is just maybe an hour or so to the east of Flagstaff, Arizona. Mm-hmm. So to kind of give you proximity there. And it's one of those places, like I said, because of the driving distance, it's been on our list, high on our list for a long time, but we just haven't made it until recently.
Right. And we've passed through it because this is a unique part in that the major highway actually goes through the park.
Yeah.
And so we've gone through the park on the highway, but this was the first time we actually got off the highway and went into the park to see what it was all about. Yeah.
Interstate 40 bisects and creates a north and a south end of the Petrified Forest. And even, before the interstate existed years ago, the famed Route 66 actually cut through. So in a lot of ways, travelers along that road, which is celebrating its 100th year in existence, that was their introduction,
right,
to not only the painted desert, but also to these giant petrified logs in the desert. But I think the progression of science and now better understanding, we kind of go, okay, we can see how it happens. But like back then, they must have been like, what are these giant rock trees?
Yeah, rock trees. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, I think before we get into all the great stuff about Petrified Forest, let's explain what a rock tree is to people. Because that's probably the best layman's way of wording it that I've ever heard.
Sure. And don't let me fake you out here. I am not a scientist. I am actually reading this. Okay. So on the actual website, this is how it kind of breaks down what these things are, right? So the Petrified Forest is one of the most continuous sections of Triassic aged rocks anywhere in the world. So, there's the Jurassic period, the Triassic period, all these different ages that go back hundreds of millions of years, right? So these rocks were deposited by enormous rivers between 208 million and 225 million years ago to include the incredible diversity of the fossils. So in this area of Arizona, 200 million years ago were these actual ginormous rivers that had, life teeming in different ways, right? So basically, when trees died, they washed into these ancient rivers and formed log jams and buried sediment, things like that. Minerals including, I don't know, silica? There you go.
Yeah.
Including silica dissolved into volcanic ash, absorbed into the porous wood over hundreds and thousands of years. It crystallized within the cell structure of the trees itself, replaced the organic material as it broke down over time. So basically, it replaced organic material with hardened, crystallized minerals, and there you go. So you have these basically giant rock trees
Yeah. They were trees at one point.
They were trees. They lived and died and fell down. And just because of the environment back then, they became hardened.
Yeah.
And now there's a national forest.
They're really neat, though. I mean, they do look like giant logs on the outside, but the insides look like these beautiful quartz and geodes and all kinds of different color deposits in there. They're gorgeous, but we didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
We thought by the name Petrified Forest that it would be an actual forest with standing trees. So I think that was lesson number 1.
There you go. Despite its name, it's not an actual forest, right? It's an exposed fossil landscape, basically spread out over 200,000 acres of like desert, badlands, and mesas.
Yeah.
So there you go. A little bit of the history behind it, and I won't go too deep into it, but long before it was protected, the area was very heavily looted in the late 1800s. So railroad crews that were building the railroads out west of the Old West, settlers, tourists, they took petrified wood by the wagon load as souvenirs, paperweights, and literally they used to build some homes out of the petrified wood. It's pretty sturdy, right? Scientists started pushing for protection in the early 1900s once it became clear that people were basically stripping the site bare. So even the large portions of the park, the south end of the park, that have these logs that are everywhere and strewn about, and you can touch them, you can pick some up a little bit or whatever, even though I think they actually tell you not to do that, so don't listen to me. Don't pick them up, don't touch them. There used to be so much more.
Really?
And over time, people have just taken little by little, everyone thinking, oh, a little bit won't hurt. And it's whittled it all down to what there is left.
Well, and there's so many places around outside the park that sell pieces of it. And it just makes you wonder where they got it from. If they're selling it. Yeah,
there are little kitschy stops along the area that actually have petrified wood. One shop I know we saw at least advertised in Holbrook. I don't know if it was in Holbrook, but it said, hey, if you visit, we'll give you a half pound free of petrified wood. So I'm like, are they growing it? Like, what? I don't know how they do it. But it's out there and you're not supposed to take it. It is on protected land now, but people do it regardless. So in 1906, President Theodore Roosevelt designated it a national monument, partly because people were tired of watching tourists and passerby steal it, and it was starting to get out of hand. But it would be like almost 6 decades later before it officially became a national park. And now it shares all the protections and boundaries and everything else that national parks do have and enjoy these days. But now over 800,000 people visit it every single year.
Really?
Partly because Interstate 40, like you said, goes right through the park. So it makes for a fun stop because I don't think it's as massive as, say, like Yellowstone, where you need days to do the park right. But also I think in a good 3 to 5 hours you can.
That's what I was going to say. It is a smaller park. It's fairly all a close proximity. So we did pretty much everything in like a 6-hour time span. I think there was only one trail we didn't go on. But we stopped at all the vistas and overlooks and went into the museums and we did all of it. And it was a really interesting day, I'll say. And
while that number, close to 800,000 visitors annually sounds really big, it is. It's not the least visited park out there. It still gives you enough space to where it doesn't feel like Yosemite and some other parks where people are on top of each other.
Yeah.
Trying to see things, right?
True.
Stay right here. We're talking about the Petrified National Park, right? It's Unscaled Travel Show. Be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-host and co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
Check us out online, unscaledtravelshow.com. All of our past episodes and interviews we put up right there and on all the major podcasting platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Dua Lipa. Is that one? So we are talking about a real visitor's first-time guide to Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona. I think it's an underrated and often overlooked park. A lot of people actually pass right through it since the highway runs through it, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shame because it's a really interesting park, and it's almost like a tale of two halves. The park is not like radial; it is linear. Meaning that there is one main road. There are two entrances, a north entrance and a south entrance, but there is really only one main road.
Yep.
That connects everything together.
Exactly. Yeah, we thought we would actually have to go into each entrance to see both sides, but once you're on that road, it just takes you around the north and then down to the south, and that's it. You can't really get off the road. There's a couple of trails, but then you have to get back on the main road to exit the park.
There's, like you said, there's a couple of like trails. Obviously, you can go walk, but it's not designed in a way like you would go backpacking through Yellowstone or something like that. There are main like offshoots off of the main road to points and vistas and different things, but they all come back to the main road and carry on. Yeah. So that's important to kind of just remember. The people describe the most optimal flow is going through the north entrance because it almost takes you through time. It's important to understand that the northern part of the park doesn't have any of the petrified forest.
No, it doesn't.
None of the logs or anything are on the north side.
But that is some of the more beautiful overlooks. And that was where we saw more signs from the different fossils that they have discovered in that area, including that very large skeleton head. And I don't remember what period that was from, but it was there was the marker saying that I believe in the 60s they discovered a giant skeleton head there. And it had been...
Was it a sloth?
I don't remember.
It was a...
I don't remember.
Kesha. I don't know. Keshiosaur. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. I remember it was giant. And I was like, wow, what is that? But if you go through the main northern entrance, the first thing you'll really come to, there's some different points that you can stop and overlooks. And you'll see what they call the Painted Desert. And you'll see why, more importantly, they call it the Painted Desert, because it is a wash of reds and oranges and in some areas pinks. Yeah. In some areas, depending on the mineral landscape, like blues and greens. Even.
Yes. Yeah.
It is beautiful. And I can only imagine we didn't go during a time where it was like raining or wet, but I can imagine like after a light rain or something like that, the colors probably just are
very
just
vivid.
Magnificent.
Yeah. Yeah. It was beautiful. And we went on a day that it was sunny, but we didn't go like in the middle of the day. So I felt like we did get a really good, at that time of day, a really good view of the beautiful colors and this landscape in front of us. We took some beautiful photos. I sent them out to some people I know and they were like, where is that? Because it almost looks otherworldly.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like something you would.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It was just beautiful.
I stuck a couple of photos and videos like on Instagram and I got like 8 likes.
Really? That's a lot.
8 likes. 8 hearts.
That's a lot for our accounts.
I think someone was like, I don't know. Never mind. I'm not going to finish that thought. One of the first structures. And again, this is a national park. So if you have an America the Beautiful pass, it covers it. Get the annual pass, $80 if you live here in the U.S. If you live outside the U.S. and you plan to visit more than maybe 2 or 3 national parks in your visit here, it's worth it to get the America the Beautiful pass.
Right.
If not, the price has gone up recently. and it costs a little bit of money. So you may need to figure
But
that
even
out.
if you don't have the pass, this isn't a park that's
It's not super
expensive to go
No,
to.
it's-
I want to
it's not
say
like
it
the
was
bigger
like
ones.
$15
Yeah,
a car.
It's
to get
pretty
in.
pretty light. But the first thing you'll come to is the Painted Desert Inn. This was built in the 30s by the Civilian Conservation Corps, way back in the day. Later designed by Mary Coulter. Mary Coulter, yeah. But is now a National Historic Landmark. And right now it's serving as not only like a piece of the museum, but
it's also the visitor center.
yeah, that's right. I think their main visitor center is getting a facelift of sorts.
Yes.
I don't think they're building a completely new one, but they are refreshing the visitor center right now. So, and like you said, this is on this main road through the northern part is where it's mainly just, I mean, there's a few trails. I think there's like maybe 2 or 3 trails, designated trails, but there are signs at Painted Desert Inn that say, hey, welcome to the Painted Desert landscape. You can just walk out into the desert.
Right. Yeah.
Which I find both exciting and alarming.
Right. They had very large maps and they had different things pinpointed out in what they call the Painted Desert Wilderness, different pinpoints of things that you could go and see, but there are no actual like developed trails to these things. So they do encourage you to just go out and explore, which I told you I would not feel comfortable doing that. I don't think we're strong enough in our navigational skills to necessarily find our way back to the car.
Navigational, survival.
But there were also signs everywhere saying that you could not camp overnight there.
Yeah.
You needed to be in your car by 5:30 because they do have coyotes that come out in the evening.
Roving bands of coyotes. When you said that, I remember all of the signs saying "be in your car by 5:30."
Yes,
there were signs everywhere.
Yes,
are the coyotes that bad?
At the very bottom, because they were these really colorful rainbow signs, and at the very bottom of all of them, it said something like, "That's when the coyotes come out." But obviously, they didn't want people to I guess, be too alarmed, so they had the rainbow part big and beautiful, and then very small letters at the bottom. Coyotes.
Guaranteed death. Like in Sparkles, though. So that's good. I think it should be a bigger print because I missed that. I didn't even see it. I thought you were joking around. Anyway, there's multiple points for which you can see the coyotes approaching, apparently. And you can walk out into the desert. But in the distance, I mean, you can see in some of these points, like Tawa Point and a couple of the others, you can see for miles and miles and miles over the, you see these ancient washes, and Point Rock is in the distance, which is like a main point that's out there. And I mean, it's almost impossible to describe.
And it had a volcano, remember?
Yeah, there's a dormant volcano.
Yeah, we were surprised to find that out.
There's coyotes. There's volcanoes. The coyote thing is throwing me off. I thought you were making that up.
No, it was really on the sign. I'm glad I read it.
This episode just took a new turn. Coyotes. Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long here with my co-host Amy.
Hello.
We're in Sin City. Why'd you say it like that? Sin City, Las Vegas, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. Thank you so much to Trent and Lisa Keenan, always supporting the show. And for our new listeners and affiliates around the world, thank you so much for having us. We are chatting, we're kind of giving a first-time visitor's guide to the Petrified Forest National Park in northern Arizona. Northeastern Arizona. Little town of Holbrook is about 20 miles outside of it. A really good inspiration for like Cars. Have you ever seen the Pixar movie
yes.
Cars? Holbrook is kind of like that, and there's some surrounding areas we're going to get to. So it's more than just the national park that'll draw you to the area and keep you visiting. But we were talking about once you're inside the park, going through the northern entrance from north to south is probably the best way to experience it, or the most, I guess, geographically
economical.
Sure. There you go. Best time. People always wonder about, when should I go? Early morning, late afternoon. It's not so much the crowds. It's more the lighting.
Yes.
If you're going there to take pictures or for video or like, I'm an influencer, hashtag, whatever. Like midday sun kind of, it flattens color out and kills the contrast. So you're going to get a lot of flat colors, and sometimes you can't control it. But if you have a choice, early morning, late or dusk, like with the golden hours.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to get some gorgeous, gorgeous shots.
Completely agree with that. And I would say too, for being called a forest, there is not a lot of shade. So middle of the day, if you're going to do any of the trails, you'd probably want to do them earlier or later, just because middle of the day in the summer in the desert, it could be quite warm.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It is very arid. Bring water. Bring more than enough water. Bring more water than you think you'll need, because like you said, there's not a whole lot of shade. On some trails, no shade at all.
Yeah.
You're just exposed.
And I don't feel that they had any major trails, long trails, any that were super strenuous, but there were a few that were a little deceiving when you started walking. You're like, oh, it's not that far, and then you start walking. You're like, it's a little farther than I thought it was going to be to get to the logs.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that right now. So this is there aren't really any dramatic hikes here. I mean, there's no endurance hikes of miles and miles and miles of hikes, right? So these are more overlooks and short walks with brief periods of steepness or steep declines and things of that nature. But even the trails that we came across were actually pretty well maintained. Again, this was kind of an area developed in the 1930s by the Conservation Corps. So a lot of the areas, even though they've been worn over time, they do have sidewalk type trails.
Paved.
Yeah, paved
trails.
Yeah, that's a better understanding of it there. We took a couple of them, right?
We did.
Didn't we?
We did.
The one was the Blue Mesa.
Yes.
So it was a loop that we kind of went down, and I mean, really just to get some shots.
Yeah. So it did say, it's about a 1 mile loop, and in elevation, it did say steep at the top of the trail. And we're like, well, it can't be that bad, right? It's only 1 mile. But it's getting from the parking area down to where the loop is. That is a bit of the problem. And it is a little windy. I will say also one side is kind of just exposed. There's no guardrail. So you have to be careful. And as we found out, there was loose gravel. Because
don't say we.
I found out because I was walking ahead of you and you were very cutely filming me. And I hit some loose gravel and almost went over the side. And some lady behind you.
It was so funny.
Some lady behind you was like, put the phone down and go help her.
Not that you almost died. Okay, that's very tragic. But the fact that you very calmly were walking in this video, and right before I hit cut, your foot hit this gravel, and you just see arms and red hair just wow,
all akimbo, right?
Basically. And the lady behind us was like, "Oh my god, my heart stopped." I don't know if she's English or not, but she is now in my memory. And she was like, "Put the phone down and go help her." And I'm laughing, and I'm like, yeah.
And I was laughing. It wasn't this big thing. It happened in half a second, and then I was righted. But I was laughing. I was like, ooh, loose gravel. And you were laughing, and this lady's up there holding her heart, clutching her pearls. Now she wasn't sure she wanted to come down the trail. But we made it. We made it down the steep trail to the loop. And it was actually really cool to see it. This was our first interaction with the petrified logs.
Absolutely. And this is without a doubt, in my mind, the most immersive trail in the park because it really literally drops you into the Badlands instead of keeping you above them where you've been on the road this entire time with the points and all of that. Beautiful, but now you're up close and personal to it. Literally, you can reach out and touch the blues and the grays and the lavender clay like mounds and hills and all of that. And so you're walking through there. And it almost looks like you're walking, I would imagine, what the moon
exactly
would be made up of,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. It definitely felt like we were on another planet.
And I can see how, I think years ago, people had more permission to go and film and do movies and things like that. And I think a number of places did because it looks like you've just been transported somewhere else, like an episode of Star Trek or something.
Yeah, it was very otherworldly. There's not another word for it. It didn't feel like you were just walking around on Earth. You're like in this again, moon. That was a really good way of putting it. I felt like I was walking on the surface of a different planet.
And like you mentioned, this is where you're first going to start seeing like scattered bits of petrified forest.
Yeah.
Petrified logs everywhere. It almost looks like they're planted in a couple of places, but they have it fell where it fell kind of attitude. So we're going to keep it on trails, talking about the Petrified Forest National Park. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Forgot what I was doing. Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
Talking about the
You don't like it when I say hello like that, do you?
first time visitor's guide to Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona. We mentioned at the beginning or near the beginning that this isn't really a park for trail hikes. There are a few main trail hikes. I think only 3 main trails that people really need to concern themselves about. I think there's a few smaller ones. But it's not somewhere you're going to do like daytime backpacking. It's not going to be these humongous trails you might find at other national parks, but the ones that you are going to concern yourself with are very beautiful. We were chatting about the Blue Mesa Trail. We're going to talk about the Crystal Forest and the Giant Logs Trail, but the Blue Mesa, I wanted to leave on a note of saying that this is where you kind of finally really start understanding the scale and the texture, and even on some levels, like the silence of this vast area. Just looking out and just seeing, like once you start walking on these trails, especially if you go on a day like we did, where people were really spread out, not a whole lot of visitors at each little spot or whatever, you kind of get a sense of like, okay, what people must have first noticed about it once they went out there years and years ago. In fact, when you start encountering the Petrified Forest sections, I know I said several times to you, like these look like they were intentionally cut, like with a chainsaw.
They did.
And you start looking around going, were these? Like, I mean, because you understand that the Conservation Corps was active in the 1930s. They built all these pavement areas and everything else. Maybe they did take chainsaws or something to it.
Right.
And you find out later that no, this is just a natural cut in these logs because of how they formed and the crystallization, and they just broke.
Which in itself, the way that they have broken so perfectly,
clean.
Cleanly, and like almost in a perfect pattern of like every 2 or 3 feet. Like it looks like a log was felled and somebody just went through with a chainsaw and broke it up into sections and then left it there.
Yeah.
And we kept looking around like, where did the logs come from and who came and cut them? And then we later look it up and it's like, no, this is just a natural occurrence.
Like, why would they have cut all these logs and then just dump them in random places?
Yeah,
it
that's
didn't make
what
any
it looked
sense to
like.
me. So anyway, you first start seeing it along the Blue Mesa. The Crystal Forest is probably one of the most popular trails in the park itself. It's short. It's mostly paved. It's extremely accessible. But this is where you're going to see a high concentration of really brightly colored petrified wood. You'll start seeing, all the different like blues and purples and yellows that are in the wood from these different minerals and their crystallizations and everything.
Yeah.
And you start wondering, like, did someone take a highlighter to this or whatever? Because I've never seen like tennis ball yellow
In a tree before. Right. I think something good to point out, though, you mentioned we were there on a day that was not very busy, and we could go on pretty much any trail we wanted. But this particular trail, the parking areas at each of these vistas and little trailheads are small. They are not made for hundreds of visitors. They're made for like a dozen visitors. And this was the only one that was full.
Yeah.
So all the other ones, we easily found a spot. This one, it was everybody wanted to stop at this trail.
Yeah. And I think for good reason. If you do a quick Google search, you'll see the petrified pieces, like, I think, at their most dramatic. This is where you're going to see these. I mean, we were just chatting about the brilliant pops of color, and you're walking along these paved parts. Again, these logs are just perfectly. They almost form their own little path. You're walking alongside them, and I mean, this is where I think the park is at its absolute best.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and you really start seeing how the minerals transform the wood here. Because in the Blue Mesa you see it, but this gives you a much better up close view of it. And like you said, you really start seeing the colors, and it's interesting because you can even see the rings in the wood and how like the minerals deposited in rings in some places. It's just fascinating, the science behind it.
Science, right? This is your oh wow moment. I think, if Blue Mesa is your introduction, like, oh, this is a strange planet, Crystal Forest is your oh wow. And if you want sense of scale, then the trail on the south side of the park, the Giant Logs Trail is where you're going to get a sense of scale.
Right.
Like how huge these ancient trees actually were.
Yeah. And this trail is literally right behind the Southern Visitor Center and Museum. So you park at those buildings and you just walk out behind them. And this is where they have their Old Faithful. It's a tree that is there that is dubbed Old Faithful. It's one of the largest still intact trees in the entire park. At its base, it's over 10 feet wide.
Wow.
It's pretty neat to see.
It was massive.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of great places to kind of see. I think the Giant Logs Trail was just maybe a short walk away, but it's a continuation of that through there. I mean, these just humongous trees standing right beside it and going like, wow, and knowing that these things are solid and they are heavy. I imagine. Don't try to pick them up.
So this right behind the visitor center was Giant Logs. And then across the street, just a short little walk across the street, was the trail for the long logs. And it's supposed to be the longest logs that have not been broken, as we were talking about earlier.
And this is a good point to say, a good point to point out that people were here too. Like for hundreds of years in the area, people made their home in this arid landscape amongst the petrified forests, what we call the Petrified Forest National Park now, but people called it home not that long ago. And they, built entire lives there, apartments there, all kinds of stuff. And I'm not joking around about the apartments. We're going to explain when we come back. It's the Unscaled Travel Show. Be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-host, Amy.
Hello.
We're in Sin City, Las Vegas, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. We're talking about the Petrified Forest National Park. Trying to give you some helpful information, a little background, a little best of the trails, a little bit of it all. And Amy's got her handy-dandy map out. You can probably hear it a little bit in the background. We have a collection of national park maps all around the studio, and we are talking now about how the Petrified Forest is also like a major archaeological landscape, not just a fossil site, not just a national park and a visitor center, right? So it has these major findings from over the last few hundred years where like humans lived and traveled and traded through the area for thousands of years. Okay, before European settlers ever came along, native people made their home there, and they still have really live archaeological sites. They're still unearthing things all the time in this park, but they have a lot of them on display now where you can kind of just walk right up to these places, pit houses, different Puebloan dwellings and everything that you just, I mean, you're within feet of these ancient dwellings where people made entire lives.
Really. And you mentioned apartments. The first one you come to when you are taking the drive from the north down to the south, I can't say it. You have to say it for us.
I'll take a guess. Perico
Pueblo?
Yeah, Perico Pueblo. And I apologize if I messed that up.
We most likely did.
Yeah.
But this is actual ruins of a village. And it was 100-room apartment building that you can still see like the basis and foundation of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that included these room blocks, plazas, and I mentioned the pit houses and pit storage areas where they would store their foodstuffs and waters and everything else. And it's for the time period. And you're thinking, I mean, we're thinking like 1250 CE or something like that. So, you know, a few hundred years ago or whatever, but it's massive for that time.
Yeah.
Like, and you can see they've done recreations and drawings of it on the outside and different very helpful banners and things that they have, signs that they have around the area where they kind of mapped it out and they show what they think it probably looked like with the walls and everything. And it was massive.
It really was.
It showed this like communal living of the Puebloan people, which is interesting if you've ever been to also like Mesa Verde.
Exactly.
With the Puebloan people that built their dwellings high on the cliffs and in the cliff sides. I mean, these people are amazing because they scratched the living out of, I would think, some of the most inhospitable terrain that they possibly could.
Absolutely. And when we were there, I remember having that same thought because we did not too long ago go to Mesa Verde and see those cliff dwellings. And I had that same thought here that even though these aren't in the side of caves, it was a very similar style of house, of the way the people lived.
Absolutely.
It was very much community. They had these, it looked like individual rooms where, you know, that would have been their space, but they shared living spaces, community spaces. And this, even though it wasn't on a cliff, it was a little bit at the edge of, I would say, a mini cliff, because it was looking down sort of into a valley. And so it just did have quite a bit of similarities.
Yeah.
To Mesa.
It aligned.
Yes.
I think perfectly with what you learn at Mesa Verde or vice versa, you know, how these peoples farmed, stored their foods, raised families, you know, because these weren't ceremonial sites. These were, like I said, community areas. And what they've understood or discovered and understood now about why these areas were abandoned it kind of aligns with regional droughts and social shifts across the Southwest and their natural progression, as far as food supplies and waters
exactly.
and things of that area. So as the area around like Arizona became more and more arid, of course you had to press on and make a living somewhere else. So,
but I would say this is the first place that you encounter petroglyphs.
Yeah.
Because we had noticed on the map when we first drove in that it did say petroglyphs were located in several locations.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is they're not really highlighted in this area. We just happened to see a lady standing there taking pictures. And I was like, what is she taking pictures of?
Yeah. And there's like a couple of small signs. And, we see likewise things that say maybe Valley of Fire National Park, Mesa Verde, like you mentioned a while ago, where these peoples were riding in the I don't know what that is, like the black,
like the sediment on the rock.
Yeah, the black sediment of the rock and everything, and just kind of trying to decipher and let others know about everyday life and what was going on. We saw amazing petroglyphs of a stork, and they often say, I think in the information guide it said like people think it's a stork with a baby in its mouth or something like that, and maybe it's a fertility thing. I saw a frog. I saw a stork with a frog in its mouth.
Saw a stork, and then it was like squiggly lines. So
yeah, I was like, that's definitely a stork just eating a frog. But then there's fun ones where I would have to think that it was maybe a kid or a younger person playing around, because it's just like their feet.
Feet prints, yeah.
It's feet prints. You know how you make a hand turkey around Thanksgiving if you're here in the United States, right? You make a hand turkey, you just put your hand on it and you draw around it. Boom, looks like a turkey. I think someone did that with their feet.
Boom, looks like a turkey.
With their feet hundreds of years ago, to say that humor has not changed.
That little Johnny was here.
In that same thought, for petroglyphs, right down the road is a stop called Newspaper Rock.
Yeah.
They call it Newspaper Rock because there is an area in the side of the cliffs where hundreds of petroglyphs were carved over centuries. You'll see figures of animals, human figures, symbols, abstract markings that mean who knows what, right? Some of the carvings date back 2,000 years or more, and it is amazing to see because where you stop is like above and you're looking down, and they've even provided
like the binoculars
to kind of see them up close so people don't go down there and try to draw their feet on the side of it.
Well, you mentioned hundreds on the flyer from the park. It says there's more than 650. So I imagine somebody at some point was counting and they just got to 650 and they're like, you know what? There's more than that down here. But from where you are, if you're not looking through the binoculars, it just looks like dirty rocks. But then once you looked at the binoculars, like it was actually incredible because you saw it first and you were like, look at the size of these giant boulders, basically.
Yeah.
And what looks like just kind of dirt and mud is actually drawings. And you can see so much. Like we've seen quite a few petroglyphs at different places. I've never seen this many in one congregated spot before.
Yeah. And they've, obviously they don't know what every single symbol means at this point and what the messages were, but it was almost like a communication surface, not like a decoration area. The petroglyphs, they think likely recorded events, maybe clan symbols, spiritual beliefs, territorial markers, or maybe it was just some kid drawing his feet, right? Maybe he was just bored one day. But they do know multiple cultures in that area added to it over time, kind of turning it into a multi-layered message board. So it was like the first AOL instant messenger.
You just dated us with that one.
Dated myself. Dated myself there. I could have said Friendster or something like that.
Oh,
anybody remember Friendster? Oh, time makes us old. So petroglyphs, amazing thing to go see in the Petrified Forest. Keep it right here, Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
She is not a petrified log. We are in Sin City, Las Vegas, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. We hope we've given you some great information for your first-time visit to the Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona. Just to kind of recap. And I want to touch base on the areas around and outside of the national park too, because I think it's a great stop.
It is.
Especially if you're just, kind of in the area, you got some time. Yeah.
Right.
Number one, the two entrances, the main road. That's the main thing to remember. You follow the one road you're on, no matter which entrance you're on, and you're going to go through the entire park, right? It takes maybe, I want to say, just look for 3 to 5 hours to spend in the park, and you'll see basically everything you want to see. They have the 3 main trails, the Blue Mesa, the Crystal Forest, and the Giant Logs Trail. If you're pressed for time, those are the 3 I would absolutely make time to visit.
I agree. Totally.
And there aren't any food service stations inside the park. That is important to understand and remember. There is at the south end of the park near I think it's called the Rainbow
Forest Museum.
Rainbow Forest Museum.
Mm-hmm.
There is an area where you can pick up small food items, but that's kind of the only place.
Yeah, it's in the Southern Visitor Center / gift shop. They have some snacks that you can purchase, but there really isn't a place to like stop and get a meal. So if you plan to be there during lunch, we did see other people who had done this. They had brought food with them. There's picnic tables around. You can stop and have lunch, but you have to bring it in.
Yeah, there are a few places with picnic tables covered, so you can have a lunch if no one's there, or you can stand and just like I do and just stand and watch other people eat, weird them out until they leave, and then you could pick up what they leave. There's also limited water refill stations and restroom areas, mainly around those museums and visitor centers. So just to help you plan ahead, and
I would say another very good thing to point out is this park is pet friendly. You can bring your dogs.
Very true.
They can go on all the trails. They just ask that your dog is on a leash and that you pick up after it. But there was nowhere that the pets were not allowed except inside the visitor center. Yeah.
Our dog enjoyed it. In fact, we brought Chief. He really, really enjoyed getting out there and seeing and smelling and claiming land. It is northern Arizona. It is arid, so summers are hot. They are windy and they are brutally dry. Be very, very careful, especially if you're going to go on any trails, because the elevation also sits above 5,000 feet. So if you're not used to elevation and you have not been drinking your water, things like that, you might dry out pretty fast.
Yeah.
And it might be a difficult time for you. So just be careful, please. Wintertime also, it snows and pretty regularly in the area. So you can find ice, and which can make trails, if you're going down, it can be very
slippery,
iffy. Yeah. Or if you're like Amy and you just find some loose rocks, you can have a little side adventure of your own.
True.
And scare people half to death. So, do those things, bring like hat and sunscreen and everything. Now I sound like your mom. But like I said, there are lots of things outside of the park. You've done the park. Maybe you want to stay in the area. Maybe you're looking for something else to do that's also kind of working with the land and terrain. We mentioned earlier the Meteor Crater.
Yes.
We stopped at the Meteor Crater years ago. I didn't know that there was a meteor crater, a giant meteor crater hole in Arizona.
Yeah, I know.
It's fascinating.
It really is. And I mean, really, yes, it's just a hole in the ground, but
all right. I did a great job of selling it.
So is the Grand Canyon. So what I was going to say though is what's fascinating about it is the scale.
Mm-hmm.
When you go there, they have a whole visitor center and museum. It teaches you all about it. And then there is this walk that takes you to the edge of it and you're looking down into it, and just the sheer breadth of how large this crater is something to see.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can't really, I can't compare it to how anything size-wise, how big I think it is.
It is nearly 1 mile wide, okay, and it's 550 feet deep. It is huge. It was formed about 50,000 years ago when an iron meteorite hit at roughly 26,000 miles per hour. It did some work, boy. I'm telling you. And it's just kind of out there in the desert. They got a whole museum about it. In fact, NASA used to train out there. They used to train their astronauts inside this meteorite impact area. So it is privately owned. The entry fee is a little higher than, it's not part of the national park system or anything like that, but it is a national natural landmark.
It's something I think everyone should see at least once.
Yeah. See it once.
It was really neat.
See it twice. See it once, like go to the side, spit. You're a kid. You were just always looking like, oh, I wonder if I could spit in that.
You were a boy, so you wondered that. Girls don't wonder that.
Really? Y'all don't do that?
No.
Oh, man.
No, we don't.
We stayed. That threw me off.
Transition.
We stayed. How do you transition? How do you segue that? We stayed in the town of Holbrook. Actually, we stayed at the KOA. They have a really nice campground of America there. Really, really nice area. And the town is very it's like slow paced and it's cute, but it's got some history. It's got some Old West history.
It does. You got to go explore their old historic courthouse.
I went and bothered some people inside an old courthouse. In their historic downtown, they have a courthouse that was built in the late 1800s. And it has a very interesting story that I won't go into now about, I guess I will, about, murders and hangings and things like that of that nature. But the best part I think most people might be interested in is in the evenings, they sometimes do ghost tours because there are several ghosts that they claim to walk the hallways.
And you got firsthand knowledge or a firsthand story of it from some of the people that work there.
Yeah. So we were there actually in the area and it was about to close. I think there was like 15 minutes left before it was closed for the day. And you were doing something, you were like, hey, why don't you just literally run across the street and go see, just pop your head in because, we weren't going to be there the next day. And so I was like, yeah, I hoofed it across the street. Almost got hit by a car. Almost a very tragic story for us, for me anyway. Popped my head in, and the people there couldn't be more kind or accommodating. I want to special shout out to Nomi, who worked the front desk, who just kind of let me play around in there because I was the only person besides her and the janitorial staff as they were shutting down for the evening. Right underneath the ground is their old jail cell, which has a lot of it looks spooky. It sounds spooky, and there are ghosts. She straight up told me, she was like, yeah, there's ghosts here. Recounting tales of hearing the old courthouse, the actual courtroom is on the second floor. It was shut down for the night. The lights were off. I got to kind of walk through that, which with the daylight kind of coming in the windows a little bit and the darkness, it was a nice little setting. So it was fun to kind of walk around, but she gave me a couple of stories about the man who was hanged there in, I think, January of 1900. His ghost is, supposedly still in the building at unrest. Another woman named Mary who haunts the hallways. And she herself told me a story about hearing children play upstairs in the hallway because there used to be a family court upstairs as well when she was alone there.
Oh, that just gave me chills.
Yeah. So
No.
we had a lot of fun. She let me go through the artifacts and everything to just kind of nose around and be a historian like I am. But it's a very interesting stop, whether you go, you know what, I'm going to say go near the end of closing time. Just kind of walk around in some of these rooms that they've left. I mean, it's a really nice place. It's not run down. I think it's a museum now, technically.
It said it was a museum.
But they're really nice people. The town itself just has this cool little historic area. A lot of Wild West history if you're into that. The Route 66, there are different parts of that hit Holbrook and the surrounding communities. So if you're a Route 66 road trip fan, there's tons of that to do as well. And like we said, a little further on down the road is Flagstaff and different areas or to the east or to the west. East is Albuquerque.
But something else Holbrook has, and I think we previously mentioned it, but there were a few of these motels back in mid-century called wigwam motels. And if you have ever watched the Pixar movie Cars, the Cozy Cone Motel is based on wigwams that look like teepees that you would stay in. And we went over to one of those and checked it out, and it was just a really neat thing. I love the movie Cars. I felt very like in the movie at that moment.
It's a great area to visit. We hope you will, and we hope you will tell them Unscaled sent you, and they'll look at you like, who? We'll see you guys next time. Unscaled Travel Show.